Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the EmpowerMAN podcast. This is going to be an interesting episode today, folks. I want you to know that I live in the safest building in South Florida because they're going to be doing fire alarm testing all day, which means that you, our wonderful audience, who we appreciate and love so much, are going to be exposed to this off and on throughout the episode. So I appreciate your patience. I thank you for your patience. But more importantly, I thank the man I'm staring at right now. He is the patriot, the parent, the family man. But more importantly, his presence looms not only in Connecticut, but it's like a blanket, like an umbrella that protects me and everyone that's in its wake. He is the mastodon. He is the master of testosterone. He is living proof, folks. Dreams can come true. Greg A. Tedora, number one. Sir, I feel like Fire Marshal Bill here, for those that are old enough to remember Fire Marshal Bill. In my apartment, I'm actually in the closet. I feel like R. Kelly a little bit. Me and the cat trapped in the closet, you know?
Oh, man.
How are you, man?
I'm good. New digs. I'll be playing around with the background because everyone's asking, where's the lion? The lion will return. Just give me a minute and I'll figure it out. I'm in my new little studio here, so things are good, man. You know, can't complain. Got to keep moving forward.
Exactly.
I'm very, very grateful to have good people around me.
You know, it's funny. I feel the same way. Today is a special day for me. As we record this, and I think back on my 46 years officially now on this earth, and I'm so blessed. I'm so thankful. And I'm so just appreciative of. I'm appreciative of the past. I'm so glad I have a past because I wouldn't have a present.
True.
So you know, I know I'm guilty of this. I condemn myself for the past. But you know what? Here I am, like you. I'm so grateful I have people in my life that love and care about me. I'm grateful that I have been able to reach a lot of people, and I've experienced that, you know, connection more today, I think, than ever. And
Yeah.
it's not like the fake stuff. It's not like, oh, let me just say hello to somebody because he's this or she's that.
Mhm.
It's like a genuine, authentic, like,
Yeah.
connection. So I'm really, really appreciative and really, really thankful and really, really grateful for things. So I feel you on that one, man.
Yeah, for sure. I'm, rewriting the second half of the life here, and I had a great time. I want to let everyone know Mike's a great captain of the boat. You did a great job driving. Had some fun. My ankles are recovering. I have like 2 high ankle sprains from that. But anyway, had a great time. Thank you again. And if you ever see uh, a boat anchored having some fun in one of the sandbars, it's probably Mike Gallagher.
Or the both of us. You know, my boat is your boat, pal. Whatever whatever I got, you got, man.
I got to get you a flag, man. If you
we
see the
are a
EmpowerMAN
team.
flag, you got to
That would
put
be
that on the boat.
awesome.
Yeah, I'll get
That
that.
would be awesome.
Yeah.
Or let's go Brandon flag. That'd be awesome.
Yep.
You know.
But I want to give a shout out first before Mike shouts out his people to all the military personnel out there. Thank you very much for everything that you do. Stay safe and come back home.
And I want to thank our firemen and women, our policemen and women, our EMTs, our local responders. And I want to thank the fire alarm company that are making this such an arduous process today and an arduous week for me. But you know what? I'm grateful that I have it because at least I know it works.
Thanks, Gary.
And thank you, yes, to Gary. And thank you to all of our brave men and women out there that sacrifice so selflessly for our country and for our rights, what's left of them. Oh, did I say that? Oops.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a certain special Democrat that watches our show. So we know that we've got inalienable rights that will never be taken from us, but yet massaged into our everyday life as the way higher officials see fit.
Yep.
Just saying.
All good.
But speaking about that, Greg, you know, I think today is a great day to talk about values as we both look at our lives and are very introspective of things. You know, I feel like values can be the common denominator in how people meet. Look at you and I. We have very
Yeah.
similar values. All of our friends have very similar values.
Yep.
Um, some of the people that we have chosen to be with may have had or may not have had similar values as us. And I think it's really important. I know we talked about values early on in
Hmm.
empowerment, but I think it's time to revisit that as well, especially as
Yeah.
we get older. And especially now we've got 5 months before arguably the most important election of our lifetime.
Hmm.
And, where people really derive their values from, how it plays a role in your everyday thought process and your decision making, and more importantly, like, how do you pass those values down onto others, and how do you make sure that you have a ecosystem, I'll use a Greg T term, of people in your network or in your circle that have the same values, and how, if they don't, it can lead you down a destructive path.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a loaded question, like I always say, but they're learned and taught, I believe, from, I'll use me as an example, from my parents, try to, instill their best. And I saw certain values growing up and obviously gravitated towards most of them. And I like that and try to live my life according to the values that were, you know, bestowed upon me. And I want to do the same to my girls. I want to be around people that have similar, like you said, values. But I also think along the way, we also form our own values because some people that grow up under the same roof have different values. So you can't, it's not always what's taught to us or what we see. It's a little bit of that and a little bit of, I think, what's naturally in you, and you just gravitate towards certain things. So I think it's a combination of both. I think having the parental, whether it's one parent or two, example lays a great like baseline foundation to build upon, and then you know um, take it from there. Because I know people that didn't have any parents growing up and they have great values. I know people that had two parents at home and they don't really care about certain values. So I think it's what we're given and then also what we create ourselves. We combine it and make it our own.
What were some of your earliest, I guess, exposures to certain outside variables that helped you form your values along with what your parents taught you?
Well, I think growing up, seeing, okay, so what I saw from my dad and my mom towards each other, value wise, and also the values and the responsibilities and all of that that they showed us. So, for example, my dad always held the door for my mom. Like it sounds silly, but it's the right thing to do, and that's a value that he was taught and passed down, and I always saw that. And I've always held a door for a female, and I think that's important to do. I see people just like, especially guys nowadays, like, it's part chivalry, but it's also, I think, values that are just ingrained in people. People just walk through a door and there's, a woman or a girl behind them and they just let the door close behind them. That's a no-no. But I just think, growing up through school, seeing certain things, and I also like being exposed to different values. And that's where I think the outside influence can come in, where you can adapt and morph them to blend and fit into your immediate family or core values.
I agree with you. I think, especially guys, I think a lot of guys don't know how to treat a woman with that type of,
Hmm.
I guess, mindset. Put the girl
Yeah.
first. I think I can speak for myself. You
Especially
know,
nowadays.
oh, nowadays it's horrible, but a lot of girls
Hmm.
don't know what it's like to be treated right. I see it all the
100%.
time
Great
walking
point.
down Atlantic Avenue. I see a girl walking on the outside of the street. I'm like, what's
No
wrong with
one
this
knows
picture?
that. No one knows that.
Like, I know you'll teach your girls, and if I can mentor somebody, both guy and girl, I'll be like, listen, man, like,
Hmm.
if these are little things that we call them red flags, and if a guy doesn't put you on the inside of the street when you walk, or doesn't make the effort to orbit around you when you're trying to walk to make sure that that's instilled, then again, keep that in mind. It sounds
Yeah.
really trivial, but it does add up. You could be the greatest person in the world, but there are certain things, those values, and if you value the same thing, then it's going to be a connection. But if you don't value that, then obviously some people are okay with being mistreated or not being treated the right way, or it may not even care to them, based on their exposure. Is that safe to say, Greg?
Absolutely. When you're dating somebody, you don't want to be like the slalom, the ski race when they're going down the hill and they're like tapping all the flags on the way down. That's you don't want that in your dating life, man. Too many red flags, you're gonna stumble and fall. You want like a nice clear bunny trail where there's no like hiccups or bumps or red flags or anything, and you're good.
Yeah, and I've made that mistake. I didn't learn that till I was 32, folks. So like you're never
I
too
was
old to
real good
learn
at the
stuff.
slalom.
Oh my God. I
Real
never
good.
got it. It's funny. We talked about every person that you meet before we
Hmm.
came on camera. People that you meet that help you. You learn from people. And I learned from my relationships or lack of
Hmm.
relationships, certain variables, so that when I went to go work on myself and be more introspective, I learned, oh, this is what chivalry is. This is what she meant. Oh, so it just made it better for the next person. Is
Yeah.
that safe to say, Greg?
Absolutely. I mean, people like to dwell on the negatives and that's which is fine to don't dwell on it, but all right, it was a shitty situation or it didn't work out or whatever, but like you said, you might learn one little thing that will help you in the future, which in turn will help somebody else that comes into your life. And maybe it'll be receptive and maybe that piece will fit better. That's all it is. It's like a work in progress.
Yeah, and I also think too with that comes work ethic. We talked about we've always talked about partnerships and what we're looking for
Mm-hmm.
in a relationship and for looking for in a partner and having that 50-50, having that legitimate partnership. And I think one
Yeah.
of the things that is missing today is work ethic.
Mm-hmm.
You see it in athletics, a lot of people put the work in. You also see a lot of people that are kind of, well, I'll say prima donnas,
Yeah.
right? They kind of want to glide by, and that's fine too.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it all comes down to your choices and where your values lie. But I
Yep.
feel like work ethic is something that's really missing today. I feel like people in the last 4 years, and I don't think it's a coincidence. People expect things
Oh yeah.
instead of working for it, and they
Yeah.
expect, or they'll do the minimal amount of work and
Mm-hmm.
then expect the most compensation in return. Greg, is that a safe assessment? And how were the influences that you saw growing up affected your work ethic to this day?
So the first question, I definitely agree and see that as well. I think the atmosphere or the feeling out there is, the instant satisfaction and I deserve this. Like I deserve a $300,000 a year job right out of college. Like, oh, you deserve that? Like you can get that, but you got to earn it. Growing up, I always saw great work ethic from not everybody, from most of the people in my life, hard workers, whatever trade or whatever profession they were in. And you progress and you get raises and promotions, you work hard and it's driven based off of not just time in the game, but also the quality of work that you do. Nowadays, I just seems that that's not the case anymore. I just feel there are people out there that work really hard, don't get me wrong, but I think that how you and I grew up with the examples of people working really hard, like their fingers to the bone, all that, I don't think that's the same anymore. They're still out there, but not in the numbers like we saw daily.
Yeah, and I know for me, my work ethic started at home. You know,
Mm-hmm.
my mom and dad, your dad was a principal. Both my mom was in retail, and then she became a teaching assistant. My dad was a math teacher. And then when my parents split, I my uncle was my role model when it came to work. He used to work second shift at IBM, and I would stay at my grandparents while my mother worked, and I would wait for him to wake up, and we would spend time with him, and then he'd go to work and he'd work overtime. My mom was always working. My mom has an amazing work ethic. I think that's where I really get it from is my mother and my uncle. My family's a bunch of workers too, and even on my father's side, they had a strong work ethic. So in that way, I was really blessed to have a lot of people that I could draw inspiration from. And then I was around older adults and friends of the family that had the
Yeah.
same work ethic, and you could see that the branch didn't fall very far from the tree. But my
Did any one
immediate,
of
yeah,
those did any one of those ever I deserve this or I should be that? I guarantee you none of them, right?
never. My
Exactly.
mother, my mother worked sometimes 3 jobs.
Yep.
She just went, she did it. It's something you did.
Yep.
My aunt and uncle just did it. They were both IBMers. Then my uncle went, and when IBM had the big collapse in the early 90s, he went and found other work. Like, none
Yep.
of my family was ever out of work. My
Yeah.
mom never out of work till they retired. My dad never out of work till they retired. And even like, I don't know if you did this when you were a kid, but when it snowed in New York, I would go shovel snow and make money.
Of
Or
course.
I would
Of
go,
course.
you cut lawns. I would do any, I mean, I couldn't wait to
I
work.
used to detail cars.
Yeah. Yeah, you go.
Of course.
Of course. I could see that.
My dad would just because I got it from my dad.
Yeah.
Everyone knows me. I'm such a Guido when it comes to my cars. Like you can eat off of the air vents. It's crazy.
Are you allowed to say that?
And yeah, whatever. I don't care. And like Q-tips cleaning in the air vents, like ridiculous. And I remember watching my dad detail his cars, and they were always clean. And then I got a chance to help him wash, which was cool. And then a lot of his friends didn't care about that stuff, but they always admired how clean his car was. So he's like, my son will wash your car. And so I did like 2 cars a day sometimes, and I would get like $100 a car. That's a lot of money for a little kid. Because I would spend like 3 hours on each car. So it was cool.
No, that's a lot. And going back to that, my cousin kept everything immaculate.
Yeah.
And I think that's helped me just keeping a clean home. Making sure no matter
Yeah.
how busy I am, keep the kitchen clean, keep this clean, keep that clean. You do
Mm-hmm.
the best you can, but
Yeah.
it's always your family. You derive a lot of inspiration or uninspiration from your family, depending on where you come from.
And
Hopefully, most people have a
those
good
are all
background.
values right there. Those are all just values.
Yeah, I know I couldn't wait to work because everyone was going and doing their own thing. I'm like, what are they doing? Like you're your little
Yeah.
kid, like where are they going? Or you'd see your uncle. I'd see my uncle get ready for work, and I would see my mom get ready for work, or my mom would work school and then she'd go after school, and
Yep.
it's I could not wait to get a job. In fact, my first job I think was legal job. Let's just say that.
Mm-hmm.
I was a camp counselor, and then I worked at Roy Rogers. Man, I loved Roy
Oh,
Rogers.
yeah. Nice.
I made the best fried chicken, man. I used to crush chicken, man. I used to bring my little like radio with a CD player, and I used to play Pantera, or I'd play Metallica, or I'd play like this was like '94. I'd be playing something. I'd work every Sunday like 12 hours. My mom would
Yeah,
drop me off
man.
at 11. She picked me up at like 9. I used to be in the back making the chicken. That was the best job. I love that job.
Yeah, man.
Loved it. Loved it. Loved it. But
Good
then
old Roy
again,
Rogers.
you and I couldn't wait to work. Like it was something that
Yeah.
was just ingrained in us. Do you feel that's changed these days?
No, I think the manual labor aspect has changed, but I think, plenty of kids want to work. I just don't I think they want the easiest route now. They want to make money on YouTube or Instagram. Like I think that's taken over the work ethic of the youth. And I'm not saying they can't do it. People make a lot of money doing that, but I think you need a fallback skill set, trade, or education in case that doesn't work because every Tom, Dick, and Harry's trying that. So it's kind of smart to have something under your belt just in case. But yeah, I think the manual labor aspect has changed a lot.
But I thought President Biden was for manufacturing, right?
Of course. Of course he is.
I
I
don't
mean, look at the manufacturing.
know. I don't. Yeah. What do I know?
Mm-hmm.
Greg, we talked about work ethic and values, and which is
Mm-hmm.
all really, really important. What about in relationships, friendships? Let's cover that friendships.
Okay.
We've all had friends that would bring us down, but either we were going through something, so we
Yeah.
gravitated towards that. I mean, we both had friends that were into different things that really kind of didn't coincide with our values.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it important to have friends or a network of similar values? And what are the dangers of putting yourself in positions where you're around people. I'll call them emotional vampires, right? People that bring you down. They obviously don't have the same values as you. Why is that important to disassociate yourself from those people? And why is it important to have people in your network that have
Hmm.
similar values?
It's important to be around people that have similar outlooks and values because it just makes life easier. I'm not saying financially easy or anything. It's just more comfortable and more flowing when you're hanging out with people and you just know you guys feel the same way about certain things. You don't have to agree on everything. That's not what I'm saying. But the value, you can disagree polarly on something, but you guys can have the same values. It's all good. But I think it's hard to disassociate from people that bring you down because sometimes those people are a lot of fun, but it comes at a cost. And you have to realize, yeah, I can have fun all day, but if they're bringing you down, you're not progressing in life or job or whatever, then you have to make a hard choice. And it sucks. We've all done it. And it is very, very hard to do because you have a lot of fun with these people, but at what cost? If you're not moving forward and you're not hitting your goals, you have to stop the train and assess and take stock of what's going on in your life. And if people are there bringing you down, that's usually what it is, or at least a big part of it.
I agree. I think of things and people I hung out with early on in life. I was
Yep.
very angry. I had a huge chip on my shoulder for a long time, and I associated with they were good people. They were
Mm-hmm.
good people. Some of them, unfortunately, are no longer here with us.
Yep.
But they were very destructive to
Yeah.
themselves, to be around, and
Yeah.
I found myself in precarious positions. But I really wanted it. It's like at the time you wanted to be, like you said, around that. They're fun, they're dangerous, they're this or that. You want to be that crazy guy, but deep down inside, you really didn't want that. You
I
know,
mean, I think I know one person in that group you're thinking about and talking about, and it was straight entertainment and fun. And it was awesome and it was dangerous. And there's always something going to happen. So it's a
yeah,
lot of fun, but it
yeah.
definitely comes at a major cost.
You have to be introspective with yourself. It's okay to have those people in your life, but keep them at an arm's length or keep them at
Yeah.
a distance because
Yeah.
I look back on that friendship, and he was one of the most loyal people I've ever met in my entire life.
That
I
guy will
love
take
him
a bullet
dearly.
for you. Take a bullet
I,
for you.
I love him dearly. I
Yep.
miss him dearly to this day.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to believe that next year he'll be passed on 10 years, which is crazy. His son is, I hopefully his son is having a good life. And
Yeah.
for people's shortcomings, and that's the thing that you have to decipher. No matter what someone's shortcomings are, you have to kind of decipher two things. One, who their character is. Are they good
Yeah.
people? Do they, and
He was a
also
great
two,
person. He was great. He
yeah,
was loyal. And that guy would definitely jump in front of a car for you.
yeah, and he was really a big teddy bear. Like, he was a very
Yep.
caring guy, and he had a
Yep.
tough childhood.
Yeah.
Because just being introspective and seeing some of the characteristics, he had a tough go of things, and I saw through all that, and I loved him, and I think he knew that, and that's he loved me too. We were like he
Yeah.
was one of my good buddies, and
Mm-hmm.
I wish that he could have gotten the help that he needed.
Yeah.
But again, we talked about we're not fixers. I don't want
Yep.
to fix anybody. I'll
You can
help
only do
people,
so
but I don't
much.
want can only do so much if you can't help yourself. So try to unpack that for a second as the fire alarm's going off. There's a lot to think about when you're in relationships with men, women, people, friends, business.
Yeah.
Like if you don't know yourself, it's going to be really hard for you to know others. Is that safe to say, Greg?
1000%. And it goes along. You're not going to be happy with somebody else if you're not happy with yourself. How could you? It's impossible. But I think a lot of people struggle with knowing who they really are all the way down to their own core. Like people get caught up in an act or a persona or a mask or whatever, and they never take it off or come off stage. And they're always on all the time. And it might not be their true self, but they don't know how to shut it off, or maybe they don't want to shut it off, but they'll never get to where that inner peace is with themselves or somebody else. So,
I
my
couldn't have said
opinion.
that any better. I really could. That's a awesome, 100%. Do you think
It's
happiness
hard.
and
It's hard to be at peace with yourself. I struggle with it all the time.
100%, 100%, Craig? I totally agree, and that's a great point. Now, do you think values and happiness are kind of synonymous? If you have good values, you'll find happiness and peace in your life. Do you think that there's a correlation between values and happiness?
There's a correlation, but I don't think it guarantees happiness. I have great values. Was I always happy? No. You have awesome values. Does that make you happy? No. It's I think when you apply it and you're truly once you're happy with yourself, then the peace comes and all that. And I think someone's more happy with themselves when they're they're just hitting their values and living that life that they truly want with no outside noise, and then let the goodness come in. I know that probably doesn't make sense. I'm trying to word it right, but like I'm always looking for just inner peace. I just want to be at peace. It's very hard for me. I'm my first emotion naturally is always anger too, and it's hard for me. But as I get older, values mean they've always meant something to me, obviously. But man, every day more and more that totem pole is, family, friends, like values, like all that stuff is always at the top. And it was definitely different when I was younger. It was like material things and cars and motorcycles and money and status and this and who you're with and where you go. The old every day that stuff means less and less to me. It really does. I just want to be around good people and be at peace with them and have fun
I agree. I agree 100%. I mean that it is tough to struggle with. I struggle with that too. And I most
every
of my
day.
46 years I've struggled with it. Ever since I can remember, I've never really had peace in my life. But one thing that I've been doing, I think you said the best part, the word application. You have to apply things. You have to work for peace. You have to work for happiness. It just doesn't happen. Like, life just doesn't happen to people. You got to work for it. And that's both good and bad. Unfortunately, bad things happen to good people, and again, you have to work yourself out of it. But
Yeah.
I feel that if you have to put the work and you have to apply things that you learn to get to happiness. The thing for me is the Bible. Every morning, there's always something that I'll read that'll stick out. And there's a biblical passage about having the peace of Christ inside of you. It's just you'll never be able to understand it. I'm paraphrasing. No one will be able to understand it, but you have joy and peace because you're able to apply things in the Bible, at least you try to your everyday life. So that your life becomes more fruitful and become happier. Because like you said, like money does money really matter at the end of the day?
Can't take it with you.
Can't take it with you. But more importantly, I'm not going to let define who I am and through my relationships I have. I've been
I
lucky enough to have a boat.
Same thing, man.
You
Yeah.
know, I
Yeah.
worked my ass off for it. Pardon my
You
language.
wanted that. That was a goal for many years for people to understand that. You put that out there a long time ago. And to be out there last week with you on your boat, I mean, that's fucking full circle, man. That's a big deal. I
It's
told you
pretty
that
cool.
that day. That's a big deal.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And was it the financially the smartest thing? Probably not. But if you look at it from a peace perspective, there's nothing that makes me happier than to be on the water.
Then there's
Something
your
that
answer. So
God
then yes,
created.
it is
Yeah,
financially a good move. I don't care.
yeah,
It's good
yeah.
for you.
And I'll work hard to maintain that. But
Yep.
therein lies the question. Oh, I become more attractive and more desirable because now I have more toys. And
True, but
you
you
know,
you lean on your values though. Do you
of
the
course,
set anybody that's attracted to that is definitely, in my opinion, anti-value because I know
of
your
course.
values don't want somebody like that.
No,
So, have fun if that's what you want to do, but if you're not, that's not your person, in my opinion.
no, no.
Nope.
It's definitely not. But
Nope.
it is a great social experiment when I think about
Hmm.
it. You know,
Yeah.
but
I hear you, man.
um,
I'm rebuilding my whole entire fucking life right now.
yeah,
From the ground up, pretty much starting at zero. And I always remind myself, so do you. My mom does too. You and my mom say the same things like, you're lucky you're around good people. And I have a small group, very, very
that's all
small
you
group,
need.
and that's the best. That's all you need. and I'm grateful for the people that are around me, and it'll be okay. I will figure it out like I always do and just keep moving forward. You don't have a choice. What am I going to do? Be depressed every day? There's no point in that. I'm just, going to build, and like you always say, I have a chance to, rewrite the second half of my life, and I'll do that.
And not a lot of
And I'll
people
do
get
it
that
my way.
opportunity.
And I'm
Exactly.
not compromising at all on anything.
So let's go a little further with this, Craig. How are you using your values to rebuild your life?
I am those that I'm focusing on them. There's a highlight on them. There's a beam of light on all my values. And if something or somebody does not coincide with that, fucking deuces. Deuces. I'm not even entertaining that conversation. I'm not entertaining that person. It is all good. I know my values. I know what I bring to the table, and I know what I want, but more importantly, I know what I don't want. And that's with anything in any category in my life. I will not veer off that course. Nope.
And were your values ever clouded in a certain way? Did you let outside forces cloud your values, would you say? Or were you always very clear in what you wanted or how you wanted to attract that special someone or job or career or friends? Did anything ever cloud your values? And if it did, how are we able to sift through it? And how are we able to see through those clouds?
I don't know if it was if my values got clouded. I just think it's a conscious choice where you're just like, let me put them on the back burner a little bit, or let me just dabble over here. And I always think, since the values are a part of you, which I think they are, it'll always, like when you're sifting through sand looking for shells or something, it'll always sift out the shit, and what's left is always your values. So you may dabble, and you might hang out with somebody that doesn't line up with your values because either it's fun, they're hot, or whatever. But if they don't match values, time tells all, and eventually you're gonna come to that crossroads because it's inevitable, and you're probably gonna be like, "See you later," because it doesn't align. If you continue to do it, no matter what, it's not, you're always going to hit that crossroad. It's just what you do at that crossroad. You're either going to save time, money, emotion, everything, and piece it out then, or you're going to do it down in the future. And I think that's another problem with, like, divorces and marriages. Like, values seem like they align, but there's a difference between seeming like they align and actually mapping it out. Do they 100% align? If they don't 100% align, I don't think it's going to work. Even 90%, I don't think it's going to work. Someone like you or me, that 10% will eat away at you. Hold on, you're on mute. Sorry.
No, I'm glad you told me that. For some people, they might like that because I do like
Yeah.
to talk.
Yeah, you were cursing me out the whole time.
Yes. Yes. No, I was enjoying the melodious tones of my fire alarm, trying to spare our
Mm.
listeners the obnoxiousness of that.
Yeah.
I think it's something to be cognizant of in regards to having that timeline. If that
Yeah.
10% doesn't at least get to like 5% or 3%, you know, I think it's important also too, if someone doesn't have the values that you have, but have like 90% of them, to kind of meet that person on their level. And it's their choice if they want to elevate or depress, go down. You can
Yeah.
only do so much for people. I
Yeah.
believe that in building others up, especially if, like, I like chocolate ice cream and you like vanilla, but I don't want to be with you because you don't like vanilla, then you got to
Yeah.
give me a chance to at least taste it, see if I like it, and maybe we
I
can
look
like
at it
take
as
a
like, you
swirl.
both like ice cream, so there's your values.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. And so you can get either end of the spectrum.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, what about working for somebody, Greg? We'll wrap it up with this. What? How do your values attract the type of job or the type of boss that you're looking to
Huh.
achieve in your career? With you being a boss and everything.
It it's hard, so I think it's down to the individual person. Somebody like you or me, we're good workers. We're great workers, actually. However, it's a difference between being a good worker and working for somebody. I don't think we're good at working for somebody. But I also think that because we have certain values. So some of the companies I've worked with, I was very grateful to work for them. I've had great experiences and met some amazing people I'm still friends with to this day. But whether it be a boss or an owner, the values don't align, it's not going to work unless you just want a paycheck and play the game. That's a different. I don't want to play that game. People want to play that game. That's cool. I just was never like that. You know, I like to treat people fairly because that's a big value for me, and it was shown to me. And I've worked for different companies where they treated people like complete shit, and I don't like to see that. You know, I used to run crews for the company you and I used to work for, and in charge of like the new construction renovations in the city throughout nighttime, and ran a bunch of different crews. I had a boss, and he would treat those groups like shit, like throw their equipment, curse at them, threaten them. Sorry, I don't care how tough you are or whatever. You don't speak to somebody like that. It's just not First of all, it's not professional, and it's just not good human to do that. They're doing their job. You should, if they're looking up to you as a leader, lead by example. And it would always get to a point where he would leave, and then I have to regroup everybody, get their minds right, calm them down, be like, yeah, whatever, play, the game, and then get them going. It got so bad that he would give them an order to do, and they just wouldn't do it. And they would look, he's like, get to work. Like, what are you, and he would curse at them, like, what are you motherfuckers doing? And they're like, yo, we're not working for you. If he's like, go take down that wall over there. And they would just sit there. And he's like, what are you doing? I told you. And they're like, once Greg says we'll go. And then, but that has resentment now from my boss. Cause he's like, oh, why? Like, you think you're above me? I'm like, I was just here observing, watching you yell at them. It's not going to get them results. Different values. And then it clashed and it became a problem. And they would only work if I said something and not him, which I totally understand. And it happened in multiple companies. So I think it's hard for people like us where our values actually do mean a lot to us, and it means a lot to us in our work and in our practice and helping people and doing what we do in that field for people. And if it doesn't align with bosses or owners, it always is a problem. Always. So it's it's a tough balance. You either play that game or you don't. I choose not to.
Well, I valued fitness at a very young age. And I think when I got older, especially in my early 20s, I was so full of anger that I was just set to prove people wrong. I wanted to prove girls that dated me wrong. I wanted
Of
to prove
course.
everybody wrong. I still do to this
Mm-hmm.
day, which is different.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew, like, at 21, like, I wanted to get into fitness modeling. That was my thing. And I wanted to do this because that was like, all back in the day, we had all the people and the magazines and bodybuilding. I was all in.
Oh
I was so deep in that scene, and I just wanted to. So I started working in New York City, worked for that company, and it just was everything I could ask for. They were beautiful. I was working in Manhattan. It was something I've
yeah.
always
Where'd you
wanted.
start? 63rd Street? Where'd you
I
start?
started on 54th and Second
That's it. Yeah.
in 1999. I was taking a train in 2 hours back and forth. I just loved it. I loved the people were just. I mean, they were the most gorgeous women. The men were really attractive and successful.
Yeah.
It smelled clean. The energy was great. Now this is the late 90s, right? So
Cleanest
yeah,
club ever, man.
cleanest club.
Club ever.
It just the energy was so awesome. Like here I am doing
Mhm.
cardio on the fourth floor, looking down at a few people walking in New York City. I'm like, this is like the whole TRL craze. It was the whole like the late
Awesome,
90s
awesome time,
were
man. Awesome
awesome.
time.
Late 90s, early 2000s were awesome
Yeah, the
time to
city was
be
good.
before 9/11, and then
Yeah.
obviously after 9/11, after a couple of years there, it was able to get some of the magic back. And
Yeah.
Manhattan is a magical place, even though it's going through a lot of stuff right now. It really is a magical, wonderful place. But those were my values. I wanted to meet gorgeous women. I wanted to be in New York City. I wanted to make money. I wanted to be seen. I mean, I was going to move to either three places when I was 21. I was going to move to Manhattan, Miami, or San Diego. Those are the three things I wanted to go to. I was like, I wanted to go, and then I started, doing professional wrestling in Manhattan, Brooklyn, right there, and the rest is history. But my values, I knew what I wanted at a young age. Now we look at things as we're older. It was a very fake goal. It was a fake value because it wasn't a real value. It was like, hey, I want people to see me from my outside, not about my inside, and that's all
Mm-hmm.
I cared about. I don't care about, oh, you've come from a great family. Awesome. You have a smoking body. Let's go.
Of
Or you
course.
work in fitness, or you work this, or I've got 8% body comp, or whatever it is. At
Mm-hmm.
one time, I was under 10%. That's changed now. But the point is,
Same
um,
here.
yeah. But the point is like, those are my values. And that's what attracted
Yeah.
me to that job. And I was with that company for half of my life, and it laid down the foundation for everything I am to this day. But there were
Yeah.
also things of my personality that were destructive, and it fed that. And
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't. Listen, that's my fault. It wasn't their fault. I made those choices, right? It wasn't. It was just. And I also
Mm-hmm.
along the way learned work ethic, and I
Mm-hmm.
learned a lot about life along the way. So
Yeah.
every day I'm grateful for that experience. Now it's
Yeah.
part of my past. If I have such a beautiful past, even though it was crazy like yours, I have a beautiful past that I'm proud of in a lot of ways. And I'm grateful because if I didn't go through that, I would not be sitting here today in
Correct.
this position.
Yeah.
So I embrace it. I'm grateful for it. I'm thankful for it. And again, two different sides of the spectrum, how those values came into play, and it worked out for the both of us.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, I
You know,
wouldn't be here either.
you know.
So,
Greggy T, any final thoughts?
the only thing I would leave this conversation saying, don't fight your values because they'll always win. So, everyone knows deep down their values because it's creeping in the back of your mind. You do something, it doesn't feel right. That's your values saying, what are you doing? It's like checking you. So, don't fight them. Actually, lean into them more. And then start, if you're not happy with certain things in your life, then redo your life. Start pick an area that you're not happy in and steer more towards your values in that area. And then once that gets going, it's probably end up positive. Do another area of your life and I probably have the same outcome and then do it again and just keep doing repetitions of that like we always say. So don't fight it, actually use it and lean into it because they're not going to change, they're in you. And you're probably not in good place because your values aren't lining up right now or you're not lining up with your values. So lean into them.
And don't be afraid to let those values shine through. Don't, like you said,
Absolutely.
don't be afraid of your
Mm-hmm.
values. Don't be afraid to let people know your values
Yeah.
because, whoa, she's really attractive. If she finds out that I value this, well, I don't really say, no, just
No.
be upfront. Hey, I value
Like
this.
I said, that'll come out the other end anyway. It's just time.
Right.
So and be proud of your values, like Mike said, and you never know. She might have the same values, and then you're good.
Or she may not, and you're
And she
good
may
too.
not. That's fine. That's fine. Yep.
Greggy T, this is a great episode today.
Mm-hmm.
Values are something I think we need to keep enforcing because again, your values are going to dictate how you vote.
Yeah.
It's going to
Yep.
dictate how you raise your family. It's going to dictate, your life trajectory, and it's
It's gonna
both
it's gonna
good and
dictate your
bad.
day to day. Bring it all the way micro down into it's your day to day, how you wake up and what you do for that day, how you
And
interact with people.
it's exactly how you treat people.
Yeah.
Like your boss there, if he valued people, he'd probably treat them a little bit differently, and he would come in with a different energy. But that was his lens that he saw life through. He probably got that from certain influences in his life in his formative years, and
Yep.
that's something hopefully he is able to correct because again, you never want to hold hostility towards anyone because it only affects you, not them, and we have to keep that in mind no matter how
Yeah.
much
That's
we
that's your
dislike
department.
people.
That's your department.
I'm
I'll
just
hold
saying, I'm
I'll,
just going to
I'll
throw
hold
this out
that.
there for anybody who's listening that's going through some slight issues with resentment. It's only affects you. I'm not saying anybody in particular. I'm just saying, in general, if there's anyone out there who's holding a little resentment, it only affects you because the other person that you're
He's
resenting
right. I don't
is going
practice
through their
that.
day-to-day like nothing matters.
Yep. Because they don't
Like
care about you.
they don't. Like my fire alarm company that happened to stop now
Yeah, of course.
since
Of
they're done.
course.
Well, everybody, I hope you realize how important your fire alarms are to get them tested and make sure that they test them all day, every day for a week straight to make sure nothing's wrong.
That's right.
And that's what happens when you live in the new America we call the free state of Florida. And I'm going to sign off and I'm going to go back to my job that I value and love, and the fact that I get to hang out here in my closet while the fire alarms are going all day. And me and my cat are kind of camped out. So you know what that means? When my cat does number 2, it's going to stink really bad.
Trapped in the closet. That's it.
So, Greggy T,
Yeah,
I
good
love the
stuff,
new
man.
setup, man. I heard the
It's getting
birds
there.
chirping. It's always a wonderful thing.
Getting there.
You know, so it's good stuff. Have an awesome day. Thank you to all our viewers out there. Don't forget to fill out the poll questions that's going to be coming out. You know, make sure we want to see that feedback because we all want to see how we can help Greg, especially with his choice of desserts. Does he shave his beard? Does he do more testosterone? Does he do legs twice a week? You know, we're going to ask here,
splitting them.
Hard cutting questions that affect Greg deeply, folks. So make sure that you get in on that poll.
Don't jump off a boat in 2 feet of water.
That's right. That's right. When you're 6'4" and 275 pounds, you go because the landing is always smooth.
Man, I have 2 high ankle sprains, dude.
Hey, but you know what? You pulled the anchor out, and that's all I can ask for. So,
yeah. All right, everybody. Stay safe.
Everybody, have a great week, and we will see you next week. And don't forget to click like and subscribe on our YouTube channel. Please, if you like us, send us some feedback so we can address it and get back to you and make this show even better for all of us listening around the world.
Love you guys. See you later.